This week's Parshat Terumah starts the many parshiot that discuss and describe the Mishkan, the tabernacle of God in the desert, where God instructed his people, "Make for me a holy place and I will dwell within it." The parsha then goes into extreme detail with instructions from God to Moshe on all of the Mishkan holy vessels and parts, how they should look, what their dimensions should be, and then does the same for the structure itself, its exact dimensions and all the materials to be used. This was the template to be used by all future Jewish contractors for their punch lists. It was that detailed. You know, I'm a bit of a hippie, so in my mind, a truly spiritual place would be very open, probably outside with some fires going, very little structure, physical or organizational. There wouldn't be many management figures in this operation, and there wouldn't be much physical building. Sort of what it must feel like in Uman for Rosh Hashanah. Not that I've ever been there, but I can imagine a bit of a free-for-all. I definitely wouldn't consider God's most comfortable place to be in a temple with a capital building fund, a treasurer, a board of directors, and various hierarchical groups with special rights and privileges, such as Kohanim and Leviim. A place like this would be crawling with petty fiefdoms, everybody with a little bit of power in charge of their little corner. We all know schools and organizations and synagogues and all sorts of organizations like this. And yet, we see when God, the client, tells his contractor Moshe what he's looking for in his home away from home, so to speak, this is exactly what he describes. So what I'm touching on is really the general point true of life in all areas and in all endeavors, that when there's a lot of organizational structure or a lot of money involved in the running of a given operation, inevitably the spirit of the operation, its overriding purpose and the reason for its creation gets slowly strangled by the mundane and usually selfish needs, priorities, and agendas of the people in charge of various aspects of the operation, until the cycle ends with the organization existing solely to protect itself. So why would God start this ball rolling with the tabernacle, where he describes a structure exacting in its detail and a tabernacle daily operation that is expensive and prone to corruption by its very nature, with the different groups involved and the different priorities, and it's just very open to corruption. So not all structures and organizations are prone to corruption. The natural world and all of its ecosystems and kingdoms is totally non-corrupt. They function seamlessly, flawlessly, and perfectly naturally. In fact, when we say the world and the animals sing God's praises, I think what it means is that the natural world expresses God's oneness and majesty just through its everyday existence. Anyone looking at the world around themselves with God consciousness can see the song of God's oneness play out in full symphonic fashion around them. But does this mean the natural world has none or very little structure or organization? Any scientist can tell you of the mathematical constants and the physical laws required for our world to exist, and about the sophistication of all life forms, from the simplest single-celled organisms to the human brain, and how the smallest change in a life form cellular structure will result in death. The truth is that the natural world around us is the most complex organization and structure, and yet it's completely uncorrupted. So why are these organizational structures not corrupt? Because man is not part of them. Man has free will and the ability to act in false and corrupt ways, with bad intentions. The reason these organizations are not corrupt is because animals and plants do not have the ability to choose and exercise bad intentions. But God wants us to be like him and create a world that is not corrupt. But he wants us to do this using our full abilities and faculties for organization and structure building. And he therefore gives us a full design for a temple and all of its workings and the potential for corruption that comes with it. He doesn't just say, build a tent in the woods and dance around the fire. He gives us a blueprint for an elaborately organized structure and expects us to build and operate it in a completely non-corrupt, so that it's a befitting home for God himself. The Jewish nation in the desert met this challenge under their leader Moshe. Everyone that donated did it with a full heart. Everyone involved in the construction did it with full love of God and recognition of the importance of their task. Everyone involved in the service and upkeep of the tabernacle kept their focus on its purpose, to make a home for God among us and to serve and involve Him in our daily lives. Since that time, the tabernacle and the temples after it descended into corruption fairly quickly. And now, in the world around us, corruption is endemic in all areas of life. But know that this is the human condition, and God promised that the Mashiach will come and usher in a new world order, a world order where God is seen by all that want to see Him. And mankind will finally, for the last time, shake off the corruption that is part of everything that mankind touches and builds. And mankind will do this through the rebuilding of the third and final Beis HaMikdash, the one which, although majestic and befitting of God's presence, will be built and operated in a completely holy and uncorrupted way, and usher in a world where mankind lives in this uncorrupted way. May we experience this beautiful world soon in our days. Shabbat Shalom from exile. May I merit to be back home in the Holy Land soon.